This was Canon's booth in Photokina, and we had a chance to speak to the company about the EOS R and more. Photokina 2018 coverage is brought to you by Manfrotto. Imagine more. We're in Photokina 2018, and I'm sitting with Mike Burnhill from Canon. Hello, Mike.
Hi, how are you?
And we have some questions for Canon, especially about the EOS R, but more about maybe a few other things as well. So Let's start. What was your goal in creating the EOS R, and what do you see as a target audience for this camera? Are we talking maybe APS-C upgraders, 6D Mark II, 5D Mark IV?
It's an interesting and deep question, actually. The design for this product actually came from a project where the engineers have said, what do we want to do with optics? What is the future of where we want to go with to produce the best lenses? Where should we be going in the future? And they're working on a project to see what Canon needs to do, just the best optics going forward. And the consequences of that results was that we would move to a mirrorless camera. And that was the key thing. And that's how we kind of got the EOS R. The whole project was called Reimagining Optical Excellence, which then became Project R, which then came to R, and then it was EOS R. So that's where the name comes from. That was the concept of why the product was. And then obviously the focus on once that was decided was to then what would be the first model and what target market. And for us, the biggest and sort of best market is the photo enthusiast. So the kind of non-professional, but people who are passionate about photography. It's their key hobby because they are the early adopters. They are, much more kind of thing. And that led to many decisions based on that product, what was important to them. So we looked at what was important to them. We did surveys. We looked online, and things like video was maybe 20% overall. None of that, only maybe 10% were doing 4K or less, whether they needed card slots. But what was more important, so things like autofocus, usability, viewfinder, compatibility, these were all very, very high in their requirements, and the features kind of were pushed down. So to deliver a product at the right price for that target market, there had to be some give and take. And that's why we kind of see some of the decisions that are in the product have been made, and why we concentrate on other areas based on what the ideal target is.
So I think that 6D Mark II users is the
62, yeah. This is more
similar.
Yeah, I think people saw the top line specification, they think it's a 5D4. But what we've done is actually brought some of the 5D4 technology down to a 6D2 kind of use of step.
Yeah, that makes sense. Okay, going on with this line of thinking, general questions basically. When you developed the RF mount, what were the main objectives? What were you trying to achieve in this mount?
Basically, SLRs have had an issue because of the mirror, which basically had a compromise on what you could do with certain lens designs, because you have to move all the optics further forward to be able to achieve a 21mm lens. Has to be 21mm from the film plane. But you can't do that if your mirror is 44mm. So you had to retro-focus design these lenses, so they became much more complex. So when you add glass to do something else, you often have to add more glass to correct it, and everything gets complex. So there's always a compromise in these sort of lenses. So therefore, getting rid of that compromise and being allowed to do whatever we wanted to open new barriers to optical design, and you kind of see that in some of the lenses that we've kind of introduced in the range to start off with.
Okay. We talked about this just before the interview. Can you explain the concept of the 5,655 autofocus points that you have on the EOS R?
Well, obviously, the joys of the dual pixel CMOS sensor is that we have technically 30 million AF points. Because every pixel is an AF point, but that's an unreasonable number of points. Actually, the 5,000 is more of a limitation of the screen than the camera, because the position of being able to move your finger or touch across, the resolution screen wouldn't allow. If we had a screen like this, then maybe you'd be able to choose, we'd have 30 million AF points. But there is a limitation to how many points you could actually, pixel-wise, define on the screen size, this thing. But basically, the 5,655 is the limitation of the number of positions X by Y selectable on the screen stroke viewfinder. So that's how you kind of get that number. So that's in single point AF. You can use a spot AF, you can actually set any of those, that number, any position. But where it really, really works seamlessly is when you use drag and touch AF. Wherever you move your thumb, the AF point will go exactly there. Not slightly to the left, not slightly to the right, but exactly where you set it.
In terms of, you mentioned the dual pixel autofocus system. What did you change in it compared to, let's say, previous generations of this?
The sensor is basically inherited from the same family as the 5D4. Again, to hit certain price points to make sure that we can deliver the product in the right time frame at the right price. So that was a business consequence of that. So we use that sensor. So it's not a different sensor, but it's from the same family group. We've improved the signal to noise ratio. We've changed the micro lenses based on the sensor. But the signal to noise ratio means we can now do things like focusing down to -6 EV. And if your kind of viewers want to know, experience what that is, basically lock yourself in a cupboard with no lights on. That's how dark -6 EV is. And also the fact that you have the 5,000 AF points. And also we've improved how we feed the data out, so therefore we can achieve the super fast AF that's capable of this camera, which is obviously the fastest full-frame mirrorless AF system on the market.
And basically this is faster than, say, the 5D Mark IV in terms of the autofocus itself?
They are different. SLRs are different because SLRs use predictive. So these tend to be more reactive. So all the mirrorless cameras tend to be more, monitoring what's going on. But the 5D4 1DX can be fast. 1DX is faster because it's got a bigger battery. They can drive, the motor is faster, which obviously helps, but also has a better prediction system, so it knows where the subject will be. So predicting an object means you can have faster speed for response.
Okay. Many people, I think, are, and rightfully so, are delighted that you added the option for the shutter to close after basically you turn off the camera.
Yeah.
So when you're swapping lenses, there's not too much dirt going into the. Oh, here it goes. There is not too much dirt going into the sensor itself.
No.
I think that some people were concerned if there is some way of basically turning this off. Is there an option?
No, basically it's there as a protection device to kind of to protect the sensor, to stop some dust getting in. Obviously, it's not totally foolproof, but any sort of level of prevention is better than no prevention. But it also gives the user more secure. They feel better about it as well, which is. You don't have to worry so much. We have like ambassadors like Brent Sturton, who was in a desert. There's obviously lots of particles in the air, and cleaning is going to be difficult. So stopping as much as you can is better than having the sensor sandblasted.
Okay. You chose the 20mm flange distance for the EOS R.
Yep.
Why did you go for this distance and not maybe a shorter distance like Nikon or Sony?
Well, that's a good question, actually. Because reliability is the answer. The shorter the flange back, there's two things. People mix up flange back and back focus distance. Back focus distance is more important than flange back in many respects because that controls optics. The flange back means the lens is further forward, the mechanical side, which means the front panel can be thicker, of a thicker metal. We can also have longer screws, so therefore the whole body can be more rigid, and you can put bigger lenses on, there's less shake. If you have a very short flange back, you have to compromise something to get that panel further back. But what's also important is having a wide throat, so therefore the optics can sit further back. And that's the optical benefit of the mirrorless cameras, where the optics are. So we found 20mm was the best compromise because the reliability that we wanted, the durability, and the large mount so allowed us to have, put the lens where we wanted to. So.
Okay, fair enough. Now, in terms of adapting, can you adapt, in theory at least, EOS R lenses into your EOS M cameras?
No, again, we're back to the physical flange back. The EOS M is 18mm. This is 20mm, as you previously pointed out. Yeah. So therefore, it would never focus at affinity.
And the other way around?
In theory, yes.
But it doesn't make a lot of sense.
There doesn't make a lot of sense, and there isn't a lot to play with. So the adapter would have to be very highly machined. But you could in theory you could put it on EOS M, but you would have it on as a macro lens.
Okay. Probably the most requested question, I think, amongst our readers has to do with 4K readout across the entire sensor frame of the EOS R.
Yep.
It seems that with your current technology, the maximum that you can achieve, and I think in this camera is 1.7x crop. And if you're looking at the 1DX Mark II, it's 1.3x crop, but it's a lower resolution camera. So it's probably, I think, about the same thing. What is the limiting factor here in terms of technology? Heat, something else?
There are many things. There's obviously processing. There is speed of readout. We are working on this. We have obviously the C700 full frame, which can do all this stuff. But it's also being able to produce it at the right price point as well. So, and the time frame that we wanted to launch this camera, all these technologies just weren't ready in time.
Okay.
So it's obviously kind of been around in the camera industry for a long time. We understand, and obviously we're looking at it, but time we have to launch a camera at the same time. We can't hold off until we tick every box, because by the time we do something else, then there's something else, and then something else. So there has to be business decisions to launch product. And as I said, the original meetings decide on the product. Video was only a small chunk, and then 4K of that was a smaller chunk. So there had to be a compromise, and that was one of the compromises to get the product going.
So we have something to hope for in the future cameras.
Yeah, we are listening. We just don't have something today.
Yeah. Talking about limitations, actually, something that I think a lot of people are not aware of, or at least some of them, is that currently there is no manufacturer that we know of that has in a consumer camera 10-bit 422 internal inside the camera.
Yeah.
Again, what is, according to what you think, the limitation here?
Against they're having the right processor type, because it's the amount of data in video. If you think about it, it's 1 billion colors and processing 20 or 30 shooting 30 frame raw every second. It's a lot of data, and the throughput, the heat. So the processors aren't quite in a small body quite there yet.
Okay. In terms of memory cards, I think this is a question that you got quite a bit. You put one SD UHS 2 card.
Yeah.
Why not 2?
Again, down back to looking at the user group that we were targeting. Most of those customers only use one card. And if they do have dual card slots, they only use one card. Canon invented dual card slots. The first camera was the 1D Mark II, with dual card slots. Way back then. So we totally understand for professionals how it's important, the reliability and backup. But again, it's that decision looking at those customers. Do they need this? If we add it, everything you add adds extra dollars to the price. So it was a balance of who's the target market. But once we launch a product that's aimed at semi-professionals, guess what? It will probably have 2 card slots.
Okay, moving on to something different in terms of the functionality of the camera. When it comes to shooting speed, it seems that the EOS R is a little bit behind, with only, I think, 5 FPS with autofocus tracking on and 3 FPS in the higher precision tracking priority mode. What is the reason behind this, I think, rather low speed?
It comes down to again, feeding the data off the sensor. It's kind of similar to the 4K kind of question. There's only the data. Electrons only travel at a set rate, so you can't magically speed them up. So the information comes out the sensor at a set speed, and then when you want to track, you're providing even more data, and you're taking pictures. There's a whole data pipeline issue that really kind of, to get around that, extra processor, extra speed, more expensive camera.
Okay, and I think that it does have a bigger buffer than some of the competition.
The buffer and our write speed has always been pretty good.
Okay. In your maybe internal discussions, what was the tipping point in favor of the multifunction control that you have on the back versus more, say, traditional joystick?
This is an interesting kind of change within Canon Inc. Actually, the body was going to be smaller, and we're looking at what controls we should have. And as a side project, we've kind of started to introduce like Google mini projects. The new engineers are working on their own little projects. And this is actually a project by one of our new engineers. And he came up with this idea because it allowed us to do controls, and people quite liked it. And they thought, okay, let's give it a go. This could be something amazing. We've kind of tried some technology in the past that are kind of great, but either they went on to be in every camera, or they disappeared after the same thing. But this was an experiment to see, this interface would actually appeal to many users, because it's very customizable. You've got 3 controls in one. But some people always miss what they had.
Yeah.
Some people look forward, but we'll see how the feedback is.
I think it's a love it or hate it kind of thing.
Yeah, and this is what unfortunately, some of these having a new camera platform gives you a chance to try new things.
Going back to a different thing, I think I left that when we talked before. I think that Sony and Nikon currently have, and Panasonic, I think as well, in-body stabilization. You don't have this in this camera. Why?
There's obviously two reasons. Obviously, optical stabilizer is still superior in every respect.
Okay.
And if you look at all the manufacturers that you've rated, if you look at their long lenses, guess what? They've all got optical stabilizers. So in-body will only work with certain lenses very well. Certain other lenses, it doesn't work so well. So every other manufacturer has to have a dual system. Also, we get where it's useful in the video industry. It's probably the most important sort of area. And again, going back to the original design decisions, it wasn't really a video focus. But again, it's a technology we understand, and it's something we're still on our radar that we are looking at to, if we have a bit more video focused body that has full frame, that this would be, should we include this or not? But for this product, it was a no, because of it cost, market, etc.
Okay. Moving on to some, talking about some lenses, I think that you introduced basically, I think 3 or 4 lenses. Four lenses, the 35, the 50, the 24-105, and the 28-70, which is this big thing over here, which is f2 and quite amazing. I think that unlike Nikon, you did not publish any roadmap for lenses, and a lot of people are basically wondering what the future of the RF line is going to be, how aggressive you're going to be with your future releases. What can you tell us about that?
Obviously, the problem with the lenses, they often slip. They are very complex to make, and once something goes wrong, you have to go back to the beginning. So we didn't want to overpromise. We've seen many roadmaps from many manufacturers, and thing not arrive. So basically, we didn't want to put something up that was actually total nonsense. So we were obviously committed to, we were producing the 2.8 trilogy next year. So like a 70 to 200 focal length type lens, 24 to 70-ish, 16-35. Focal lengths are still,
what the professionals need.
Yeah, what the professionals going to need. But next year we will focus on RF lenses. So we'll take a break. There'll be no EF lenses next year. We'll focus on RF. We know we have to catch up, so we have to move the production from that to RF, so we can kind of try to produce more lenses to catch up with our competitors.
Actually, that's the first time I'm hearing of that. It's the first time that you're saying it, or maybe in other venues you already mentioned that?
We've mentioned it subtly, but it's basically we can't produce, the lens manufacturer can only produce X amount of lenses, and we either produce 5 here, 3 there, or we produce 10 of these. And we realized we're behind here. In the EF range, we're not short of lenses. We've got everything kind of covered off, and we'll get back to that. And there are still roadmaps internally for different EF lenses that we want to produce, but we know this is the priority to get the system going, and we have to concentrate on this for the time being.
Okay. Well, the new talking about EF, the new EF to EOS R adapter with the drop-in filter, you don't have it here.
I don't have it, unfortunately,
is relatively affordable. I think it's about $300. The filter, at least the variable ND filter, is quite expensive. I think it's $400. Do you have any idea why is that?
I think obviously the problem is part of the pricing is down to scales of economy. We'll sell more with the adapter, so therefore the price goes down. As a separate item, we'll sell less. That affects the scale of economy a little bit.
Will it sell as a kit?
Yes. So the adapter will sell the adapter in two options. There's one with the variable circular polarizer, again with a little wheel, or one with variable ND. So you can buy either of those two kits.
And the kit with the variable ND will cost how much?
$399, $419.
So it's much more affordable to actually buy it as a kit.
And then the items are available separate or as replacements. That's the idea. But the adapter basically, it's really just a tube. Because the camera actually speaks 2 languages. It speaks EF and RF. So therefore, the adapter has no real chips in it. It just talks straight through to the lens. So there is no translation errors when you put 2 lenses together. That can be a miscommunication. 90% of the time it's fine, then suddenly it stops working. Here, the camera knows what lens is on it and talks natively, so you get exactly the same performance or better with an EF lens with the EOS R with no sort of issues.
Okay. That concludes our question. We have three quick questions and actually two questions and one request from our readers.
Okay.
The first is, why doesn't the eye autofocus work on all autofocus modes in the EOS R?
Obviously, the IF only works for the face tracking. Again, that seems to be the most obvious rather than having a single point. Because if the single point you focus over here and the eye is over here, well, it's who's right.
Yeah.
So yeah, it makes sense if you're concentrating on automatic and you want to concentrate on the face, that it only works in that mode.
Okay. But in terms of, you're going to add some eye autofocus options to the...
Obviously, there's some feedback from customers. At the moment, we have it in a one-shot mode only, and there's lots of feedback, and the engineers are looking at how we implement it going forward as a continuous option.
Okay, and one final question, actually a request. Can Canon include an option to easily add markers during video recording? So let's say we're recording right now and you want to add a marker in post-production, to see in post-production that what you said right now is important, for example.
Yeah.
Then can you do something like that?
In theory, I think we've kind of introduced features like that in some of the high-end videos sort of systems. Again, this is really not the sort of product for that end. But it's something we would obviously definitely look at in the video-focused model because it's easier and easier to edit.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.